watching ABC 6 News Good Morning with Rachel Wick, Brianna Cook, and ABC 6 meteorologist Jim Peterson.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
It was the verdict heard around the world, guilty on all charges. This morning, former police officer Derek Chauvin is waking up behind bars nearly 1 year after the death of George Floyd.
And many say that verdict is one step in the fight against systemic racism. We'll show you what lawmakers are doing in Minnesota and in Washington to try and change things. Thanks again for being with us this morning. I'm Brianna Cook.
And I'm Rachel Wick. Jim, it is still cold outside.
Yes, it is. It's April 21st. We should be at 38 out the door, 60 for a high today. Neither of those happening. And look at, we even have some snow. That's right, some flurries still showing up on Storm Tracker's satellite and radar. Nothing significant for snow. Don't worry, it's not going to add up. You don't need the shovels or snow blowers by any means, but just don't be surprised if you see a few more snowflakes again today. We picked up some on Monday, saw some yesterday. That trend will continue today along with the chilly air. 22 out the door now, upper 30s by the noon hour. Again, that's our typical low temperature this time of the year. Headed to the 40s, not the 60s for our highs.
Thank you, Jim. This morning, Derek Chauvin is behind bars. The world watched on Tuesday as Judge Peter Cahill announced the jury found the former Minneapolis police officer guilty of all counts in the death of George Floyd.
Those counts are second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The decision comes after weeks of testimony. And here's the moment Judge Peter Cahill read that verdict in court.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty.
Chauvin will remain in a jail cell in Oak Park Heights until he faces a judge again in about 2 months for sentencing. The most serious charge, second-degree unintentional murder, carries up to 40 years in prison. And the 3 other former officers involved in George Floyd's death will be tried in August. Thomas Lane, Tu Tao, and J. Alexander King are all charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and manslaughter. And this is a live look at George Floyd Square at 38th and Chicago in Minneapolis this morning, where Floyd was killed almost 1 year ago. As you can see, it's quiet there right now, but yesterday, hundreds of people actually gathered there peacefully to celebrate that verdict.
And this morning, we're hearing from Attorney General Keith Ellison, who was the lead prosecutor of the case and George Floyd's family. Ellison is thanking the community for their support in this trial. He recognized the bystanders who stopped and filmed the incident the night that George Floyd died. But Ellison is also calling for further police reform.
The cause of justice is in your hands. And when I say your hands, I mean the hands of the people of the United States.
We have to march. We will have to do this for life. We have to protest because it seems like this is a never-ending cycle.
The Floyd family says the fight for justice must continue. They say they won't stop taking action to make sure this doesn't happen again. Leaders in our communities were watching the trial closely, too. We spoke with the president of the Rochester branch of the NAACP right after the verdict came out. He said his initial reaction was to cry.
So today was a relief. The work continues. You look at Dante Wright. You know, there's so many others, and so you know. And I'll just share with you, my kids. You know, we were all crying. You know, and the tears just started to pour from my eyes because this is, you know, it affects, you know, families like ours.
Wale Elegbede said although yesterday was a victory, there is still much more work that has to be done.
And at the Minnesota State Capitol today, the House of Representatives is set to vote on major police reform. This bill would prevent officers from stopping drivers for certain equipment violations. And it gives the State Police Licensing Board access to information on past complaints against officers. The bill faces an uncertain future in the Republican-controlled Senate. Senate Majority Leader Paul Gazelka recently said he's open to hearings from police reform, but he says passing a budget must come first, something he and others believe there is still time to do.
Good morning, everybody. It is now 6:06 on our Wednesday, looking down at Highway 18 and 65 across parts of North Iowa, looking at that dry pavement, even though we are seeing some flurries showing up around the north central Iowa communities, especially closer into the west of I-35. Same with southern Minnesota, a few more flurries clipping the Mississippi River Valley to our north and northeast. Our precip chance the next 24 hours, we're really lacking anything major or anything significant in terms of moisture. We will see some rain in the form of sprinkles, maybe a few flurries at times this morning. That's it for today. Then we're nearing 60 tomorrow with a better chance for maybe some higher rainfall totals by the end of the week, and especially next week with rain and rumbles on the way early on. 22 in Manly out the door. Your hometown forecast has you at our typical low for today by the midday, and we're only at 43. Not a whole lot of warming taking place today. Again, though, that changes tomorrow.
Thank you, Jim. People across the country are remembering former Vice President Walter Mondale.
And that includes people in the small southern Minnesota town where Mondale grew up. We'll take you to Elmore and show you how people are honoring the late politician. That's coming up after your weather first at 6:09.